am hurt. I am betrayed. For I have been lied to. Before I continue my Shakespearean melodramatic speech, please note that this is a part 2. Check out my first part where I was only halfway through the game. This one is with the full story. All right. Kasumi did get better. Yeah, I know, but calm down, it wasn't that much of an improvement. Now, before we start, we are now very much in the salty sea of spoilers. I hope you have your sanity or your life vest, for we are going head first. Here we go! Let it be said that I like the third semester story. I was so prepared for whatever they added to be tacked on with the, oh yeah, we were also a part of the Shido conspiracy. So I commend them for not doing that, at least. So, what happens? We beat the God of Control, which I still adore cause, wow. The bystander effect combined with the want for one's own dreams makes this weird amalgamation of imprisonment and misery. But that's nothing new. We got that in Persona 5 proper. So, we fight, we scratch and claw our way to our victory, and we hug and win! Then, we wake up the next morning and immediately we are hit with new stuff. No more reds and blacks. Now suddenly there's whites and a strange but alluring rainbow sheen. They didn't hesitate for a second to throw us into the new stuff. Good! You see your teammates and they are now living their best lives, which is great, right? No, absolutely not. This is an anime, dang it. There needs to be angst, because these lovelies are living lies. Dead people are back. Families are complete again, and for some reason, Chat Noir is in here. Huh?
Ow, my ladybug's growing claws.
Anyways, everything is too perfect. Except, you aren't the only one who is unaffected. And who should arrive but Kasumi and Akechi. Wait, Akechi? That guy died for us! What? More on that later, because we've got a palace to infiltrate and a ruler to give a stern talking to. And surprise! It's Maruki! Yeah, that clumsy cute little Dr. Maruki. Remember him? Couldn't hurt a fly if he wanted to, and the snack enthusiast. That was legit a plot twist for me, because I didn't think that the game had the audacity to make a former ally a new problem. But it's great, because it then poses this moral quandary. Is it better to let yourself live in a happy lie, rather than finding and building your own happiness in reality? It's a great question, because there's definitely a right answer, but there's a part of the human heart and soul that wishes for the former. Wouldn't it be lovely to simply wish for something? Not anything per se, but something big, and it just be fulfilled? Oh, I freaking love this! Except that brings us back to the choice. Like I said, there is definitely a right choice here. Maruki just wants people to be happy, a noble thing, truly. But he became deluded in his path to make that happen. And since he's gotten reality-bending power, which are never truly explained why, he just had to do that. So now it's time for us to save our teammates. And by us, I mean Joker, because for everyone else, agency is not a thing. So you spend the next week breaking your teammates free from their dreams. It's a nice moment where you review yourself on each of your teammates' stories. And for those that you connect with, it kinda hurts to tell them to wake back up. Though I must say that it's undercut just a tiny bit, because we did the exact same thing. You know, talking to all your teammates and seeing how far we've come and, you know, in the Velvet Room. It's effective, it's just not as effective as it could have been, methinks. No one has woken from their dreamlike state, but Maruki insists that you meet him again. With no other choice, you, Kasumi, and Akechi go back into the palace, and that's when you find out the truth. The reveal here is actually well done, shown in weird flashbacks. Though, I have to admit, the second I saw the sisters' model standing up on the first place pedestal, I instantly said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if that was actually Kasumi? And, it turns out I was right. Realizing that she is living a lie, the girl formerly known as Kasumi freaks out and refuses to live in a world where she killed her sister, the real Slim Sumi. You then have to fight her in this weird tentacle form she's in, and when she's defeated, that's when she has to accept reality as it is. Oh yeah, your teammates come back and save you or whatever, It's a great moment, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about Sumire. Oh yeah, by the way, her name is Sumire. So, we as an audience figure out that Sumire was jealous of her older sister, Kasumi. Supposedly, she was more talented and more bold, and people liked her more, which slowly gave into jealousy. In a small fit of said jealousy, Sumire runs away. Kasumi pushes her out of the way of a moving car, is hit, and dies. Sumire then has to live with the survivor's guilt and the self-imposed blame of her sister's death. She then wishes to no longer be in a reality where her sister was dead, in front of the one person who could help her with that. Man, that is incredibly lucky. Now, having Kasumi actually be the older sister and the younger sister Sumire pretend to be her due to jealousy is a fine story. Except when you think about it, it doesn't make much sense. Okay, step back. No, really step back. And think with me for a moment. You have a reality-bending deity on your side, and you can have one wish. Any wish of your choosing to come true. And you chose identity crisis? Okay. I want to bring up some new solutions to light, and let's see if they would hold up any better. Upon reflection, Sumire had two pieces of her wish. The dialogue focused on one, but there's an underlying problem that was always present but never really addressed until the second half of her storyline. What the writing wants us to focus on was that Sumire refused to live in a world where her sister was dead. She wants her sister to not be dead. She can't be dead. Dead, dead, dead. So, somehow, Maruki translated that into making Sumire believe that she is Kasumi. For some reason. But why? Because that would solve her other problem. So, in assuming Kasumi is, oh lord, was that a pun? Identity, Sumire gets both parts of her wish. Her sister is no longer dead, and she gets to be the talented, amazing older sister. But there's two problems with this solution. Firstly, we learn that Maruki's power doesn't actually bend reality. It bends people's perceptions of reality. Sumire perceived that she was her sister, and when someone called her by her name, Sumire, she heard Kasumi and answered. Perceiving yourself as better doesn't make you better at something. So, Doc's solution for her wasn't really a solution. Sumire was simply pretending to be something she's not and still suffering for it. But on a more technical side, having Sumire have two problems to face muddies up her story. In classic story writing, you want your hero to have and solve one big problem. There can be many problems that sprout from that one problem, but the main one has to remain the focus. Otherwise, your story becomes confused at best and unstable at worst. Take the Phantom Thieves story. They want to correct society. That's their goal. They come across many problems, including figuring out the big bad, figuring out who screwed over Joker, healing those who are affected, and keeping themselves a secret. These are all problems, but it all ties back to the main goal. So Kasumi's story is trying to have her cake and eat it too. Which one should she have? Well, she could have either. If she wanted to be her sister, then why not delete the real Kasumi from her memory? Or rather, change Sumire's cognition to where she was the only child. Then, in her mind, there's no more sibling rivalry, and Sumire competes for her love of gymnastics and the drive to be better. Rather than trying to keep up with Kasumi, she can even keep the I'm going to compete and do well for myself, even after she figures out that her sister was, in fact, real. Which is something that I think her storyline was originally trying to do anyways. This way, the wish can fulfill both parts, get rid of that pesky identity crisis. Why does Sumire have a sister at all? What if her wish was simply to be more confident? Have her start off as shy and unsure Sumire, who's in a slump, and have her meet Maruki. Then suddenly she's confident without batting an eye. She wins competitions and people are talking about her because she's the popular honor student who wins. Instantly, we know something is up. Then, when she's forced to recount all of her shortcomings, she remembers her doubts, her fears, the uncertainty of herself. She didn't win those competitions, and people were talking about her, but not in a good way. Then it becomes a moral dilemma to mirror Maruki's. But what if the writing focused on the other half of her wish? Yeah, I got a question, Doc. If you could bring back people from the dead, why not bring back the real Kasumi? Boom, no longer a reality where she's dead. Well, maybe they didn't program a new model. Okay, but then why is this one a thing? Maybe they didn't want to add her to the story. Okay, listen. How much more powerful would it be if we knew both sisters throughout the entirety of the story? Then we could keep up with Sumeri's growing jealousy of her sister. It's not like they didn't do a story similar with Mishima, who almost became villainous with his desire to be more than just a zero. Hell, they could even have the real Kasumi only pop in a few times. You know, like Mika for An. A rival that pops up occasionally to pose a threat of some sort, but isn't present often. Their impact, however, will be shown in how much it affects your confidant. But could you imagine? You know this girl, the real Kasumi, throughout the game, and you see the effect she has on Sumeri. You want to help, but don't know what to do, and boom! The car crash happens in the story. It's not some past event, it happens before our very eyes. We got to know the missing figure, and now that they're gone, we feel that weight. It's a payoff for having them in your face from the beginning. But what else could be done? Have Kasumi be alive again, but only in Sumeri's perceptions. At first, play it off like she's a character who will be perpetually off-screen, you know, like Kafumi's shogi opponents. Instead, we just see the confidant, and how it's happening in their life is affecting them. For how the game currently is, everything traumatic has already happened, and she's just refusing to cope and move on. It has a lot less emotional impact than the other teammates. For them, their trauma was happening before our very eyes. For all, except Futaba, whose story strikes an eerie resemblance when you break it down. A member of her family was killed, and she was led to believe in one way or another it was all her fault, leading to the confidant to spiral downwards into a very questionable coping mechanisms. For Futaba, she was ready to throw her life away by becoming a full-on shut-in, to live out the rest of her life in a very slow and lonely death. For Sumeri, it's not accepting reality and that she has to be her sister. To me, it's a lot less stakes for her. Her life's not in danger, and they didn't turn her into a palace like they did with the little ginger gremlins, so... It hurts that Atlas has proven that they can pull off a storyline like this, then botch it so thoroughly. So, what if Sumeri was the only one who thought that Kasumi was still alive? And all of her ranking moments were in situations where no one could contradict her. By then, we've gotten to know her, and her very much alive sister. And that's when we start to get hints that something's up. Perhaps Akechi, to make that tie between him and Sumeri a little closer, make a comment how he hasn't seen Kasumi in a while, or thought that Kasumi was gone for one reason or another. Then, lock up our storyline. You can't get the last few ranks until after the reveal, and that's when you start the healing process, just like you do with your other confidants. That way, you wouldn't just be under the illusion that there's only 5 ranks. Or, stranger yet, have her 10 ranks as Kasumi, but then, when you figure out the truth, have the Kasumi ranking card crumble away and boom! There's Sumeri with 10 shiny new ranks to play with. In fact, at the end of this, it felt like Sumeri was an accessory to Maruki's endgame story. Though, even that was done by the rest of the team. But you know what really hurts? My solution about having Kasumi being actually dead and wanting to keep her alive was also already done. Because I did it a million times better with Akechi! You've known him since the beginning. You actually bonded with him. He didn't feel forced because he had a story purpose as your rival and betrayer. You want to keep him around, but you can't. So guess what, Mary Kasumi? You got nothing original going on. I like the idea of Sumeri, and she could have been great if they did it right. The working title of these videos was The Red-Haired Herring. I did this as a joke, because I thought red-haired, red herring. They put Kasumi/Sumeri in your face so freaking hard, and I swear if this is true, so you wouldn't pay attention to the duck